New York's classic rock, Q1043.
Hi, welcome back to Sonstein Sunday. Tim Blake Nelson with his new movie, Old Henry. He not only stars in the movie, he's a co-executive producer. Now, the best way I could describe this movie, which is opening Friday, the way I describe it is it's a Western thriller mystery. I have heard that you describe it as a micro-Western.
I do.
What is that?
Which isn't to dispute your description, which is also apt. A micro-Western almost should seem like a contradiction because we generally like our Westerns to be large in scope with a lot of different characters, and particularly these days, which is a good thing, of different ethnicities and genders, et cetera, to depict what that world was like. That is to say, 19th century or very early 20th century the American West. This movie has a very small cast and also is quite intimate, even though I think it achieves a level of scope that is quite grand and dramatic. It really is a quite intimate story about a father and son who, over the course of the film, as they face tremendous adversity, finally and truly get to know one another as the son becomes a man.
And he's quite the rebellious son. And by the way, I did not give you the full introduction because it's Tim Blake Nelson of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou fame, Lincoln, The Incredible Hulk. I did not know that you were a Grammy winner.
Yes, I won that Grammy along with everybody else on the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack when the soundtrack album for Oh Brother, Where Art Thou won Album of the Year. And so since I sang on the album, I sing a song called In the Jailhouse Now, I got a Grammy, which was an enormous surprise to me because I went into that project thinking I've got the greatest role anybody's ever offered me. And then suddenly I got to sing as well, which was what you call a lagniappe.
And then you get a Grammy and you play guitar. I mean, well, let me give a little backstory. When we first connected, we're doing this by Zoom. Tim Blake Nelson has a guitar in his hand and I see him strumming. And then you proceed to tell me that you're just learning guitar, and it all involved this process of making Old Henry, but you also gave your son credit for inspiring you. So it's sort of like life imitating art here. Although I hope your son in real life is not as rebellious as your son on film.
I learned to play the guitar actually for a different movie called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which I did in 2018. We shot that right before the dread COVID. And
another Coen Brothers movie.
Yes, another Coen Brothers film. Right. And in that film, I play the guitar and sing while riding a horse. And so to look like I knew what I was doing, I really went and learned guitar with my son, Henry, as my teacher. And I've been playing guitar, therefore, since 2018. But I play in the movie, but other than that, I don't play for anyone, just myself. It's something, I'm 57. I started learning guitar when I was 54, 55, 54. And to learn something new that takes a good deal of discipline and practice and exercises a different part of one's brain in one's 50s, I think is just, it has been resuscitated to me. I've really found the challenge to be a very helpful one. And it sharpens my acuities in all sorts of other areas. And above all, I enjoy it.
You know,
It's just brain exercise.
You seem to be the kind of person that really loves a challenge. Am I wrong?
I do. I love a challenge, and that's why acting is so incredibly rewarding to me. Each role that I'm privileged enough to get to inhabit brings with it something. They always bring something to learn, some new experience to find deeply enough within myself to where it feels like I'm the character and not an actor just putting it on. And the preparation just, I don't know, it just feels like it deepens my life. And I think each of us, no matter what we're doing, whether you're a stock trader or a mill worker, or what, or a radio host, I think that a good and healthy life has to involve new challenges. And so I think we all work to find that. I don't think it's unique to acting, except that acting probably makes doing that a lot easier, because when you're inhabiting characters who are different than you, you're responsible to come up with the goods. And so you're forced into these challenges. And I'm very happy about that.
Trace Adkins, the country star, plays your brother-in-law in the movie Old Henry, which is opening Friday. Is this his first acting role?
I gotta say, Trace has acted before. And I think it's always I think it's always good to be honest in interviews because it makes them more interesting. And I will say here, I've told no one else this, that I was quite anxious when they told me they were going to cast Trace. And because I'm also a producer on the movie, I was privy to it, and the notion was mooted before me, just out of courtesy. I didn't have final say, but they said, "What do you think?" And I was against the idea because I know there are plenty of actors out there who would love to play that role. And I think that people who devote themselves to acting should get those opportunities. And also I was nervous, who's this? Yes, he's a country star, but does that mean he can act? But I'm also, whether I'm a producer on a movie or an actor, I respect that the director should have the last word. And the director said, "No, I want to cast Trace." And I said, "Great, I'm there. As of right now, he's the best actor for the role." And guess what? When I showed up on set and started playing our scenes together, Trace was extraordinary. He's fantastic. I don't think they could have found anybody better.
Yeah, he just fit that role, fit it like a glove. I'm speaking
with a complete gentleman too.
I'm speaking with Tim Blake Nelson of Oh Brother, Where Out Thar fame, also Lincoln, The Incredible Hulk, the Coen Brothers movie, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and he is here with me today. His Western, he calls it a micro-Western, I call it a Western thriller mystery, Old Henry, opens on Friday. I want to talk to you about a movie that is still so vivid in my head, which is unusual because I see so many movies as the movie critic for Q104.3, and that is The Gray Zone, which you directed and you wrote. It's a Holocaust film, but it's unlike any other Holocaust film you ever saw. And what's weird, this all comes together. I was talking with Steve Buscemi, who stars in The Gray Zone. I got Steve Buscemi, who was a firefighter, FDNYer. He was part of my 9/11 Stories podcast and YouTube series, telling his story, his personal story of 9/11 that day, start to finish. And he told me, he opened his story, Tim, by saying that he was on his way to the airport to go to the Toronto Film Festival for The Gray Zone.
That's correct. It was to premiere at Toronto on 9/11, which it never did, of course. It was canceled. And I remember waking up that day and was doing a radio interview in a studio in Toronto when the host looked up at the television screen that was just to his right and above us and said, "My God, look there." It was during a commercial break. A plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. And then, of course, that unwound in the rest of the day. And my wife and I found ourselves on a train home on the 12th, and the movie never really had its premiere, which is the most insignificant tragedy of 9/11.
But as I was saying, such an extraordinary film. How do you pick what it is you're going to do next? You who loves a good challenge. That was a challenge.
At this point, I guess I'll only do a project if it feels irresistible. And then once I've determined that, I also want to know that I'm going to serve the project well. So I've been offered roles. One was a guy offered me a role once as a gay man. And although I have a movie coming out this fall in which I do play a gay man, the nature of that role, even though it was a wonderful part, was just something I knew I wasn't going to be able to pull off. There was a flamboyance to the role that would have felt too histrionic in my hands. And I just knew that they needed to get somebody who wouldn't seem like they were aping it or playing at it. And so they got, funnily enough, the director got Ted Danson to play the role.
Huh.
And he was fantastic and much better than I would have been. So I have to feel like I'm not going to disappoint the director. And at this point, I'm offered roles, and sometimes I feel like I know better than the director, and I'll say, you know what, you can get somebody better than me for this. So I have to feel like it's irresistible, like I can serve what the director wants, do the part well, not disappoint them. And then I have to feel like the director has the resources really to pull off what it is he wants to do. And if a piece meets those criteria, then I'll do it. And other stuff doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't matter what I'm paid. It does, you know, I'll do it. So that's sort of where I am right now.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left. So I want you, Tim Blake Nelson, star and co-executive producer of Old Henry, the smaller Western is what I would call it, more intimate. And you were extraordinary because I totally felt like you belonged in that role. But what else would you like the audience to know about Old Henry, which opens Friday? Well,
I love the way you describe it, which is that it's a Western thriller, action mystery. I also call it a micro-Western because there's an intimacy to it that you often don't find in more broad stroke pieces in that genre. And I'm incredibly proud of my own work, but most of all of the work of the other actors in the movie, but especially Pazzi Panzaroli, the writer-director. I think he's made a really thrilling homage to the Western. And I would say to your audience that if you like a straight ahead, meat and potatoes, no compromise, old-fashioned Western, this movie is for you. My husband, who sits in the afternoon watching Bonanza and all the old Westerns,
was so looking forward to seeing Old Henry and positively loved it. So that's the ultimate endorsement, because usually he yells at me and says, "Why did I have to sit through this crappy movie with you?" But he actually thanked me, Tim Blake Nelson. Old Henry opens Friday. If you missed any part of this interview, they live on as the podcast Sonstein Sessions. You can download the iHeartRadio app. It is free. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning on the Jim Kerr Rock and Roll Morning Show, Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.